The Diocese of Norwich says retired Judge Michael E. Riley, along with a team of attorneys, will be given unrestricted access to records and archives dating back to 1953 to investigate allegations of sexual abuse at the hands of priests. In February of 2019, Bishop Michael Cody released the names of the 43 priests who have served in Connecticut and have had allegations of sexual abuse of minors made against them. 33 of those priests are dead, and Cody said no current priest or deacon is responsible for these allegations. The diocese did not make anyone available for an on-camera interview Monday. Church members in Norwich are hopeful that the investigation will finally bring some closure.
I think the church is pursuing it under Bishop Cody's leadership, and it's a terrible thing. But all you can do is hope that the actions the church takes, will eliminate this type of behavior.
Anything like that involving minors bothers me, whether it's a priest, it's a teacher, it's the man down the street. It doesn't matter, you know. What someone does for a living is hardly relevant. I mean, although we hold priests and other religious figures on a higher plane, we tend to elevate them above the average person, you know.
We reached out to Judge Riley, and in a statement he said in part, quote, "Our goal is to speak with as many persons as possible who have information relevant to our investigation, whether they are survivors of abuse, alleged perpetrators of abuse, or diocesan administrators, so that we can put together a comprehensive report of the history of clergy abuse and the diocese's response to it." Once the investigation is finished, the findings of the report will be made public. As to when that will be made available, that is not yet known. But anyone who has any information that can help with Judge Riley's investigation is urged to come forward. I'll have that contact information for you on Fox61.com. Reporting in Norwich, Carmen Chow, Fox 61 News.